Hi, I'm Linz. Welcome to Becoming Everwell, a channel where we talk about the ongoing journey of becoming. I'm a former English teacher who believes that some of the best kind of learning happens outside of the classroom, and I tell stories about that. Today's story is about embracing the kind of cool that you are. I make sense of life by writing about real everyday stuff that makes us who we are. Some of these snapshots are fun, some are more serious. Maybe they'll open up something in you too. Let's grow. Years ago, over the fall break of my first year of college, and while gathered with friends from home, one of them described her early impressions of her assigned roommate. A lovable dork is what she said. The perfect roommate to come home to and talk about life with because she asked great questions and listened well. But she was not her ideal partner in crime for wild weekend gallivanting. I'll note that this individual reigned high on the popularity pecking order of youth. The summer after our freshman year and back home, a group of us were gathered again, and she must have forgotten that she'd already previewed her lovable dork of a roommate to me because the topic of roommates resurfaced, and after saying that she'd loved her roommate, she told me, "She reminds me of you." A stinging compliment. Ego aside, lovable dork tracks. Cool, at least the kind of cool that I associate with adolescent status, is mysterious, low-key about showing affection, trendy, and seemingly untouchable. I'm none of those. I've always been more popular amongst folks who value emotional availability, social safety, and fun-loving energy. And although plenty of legitimately cool folks have befriended me over the years, I'm sure we'd all agree that I'm not cool like them. I suppose I'm cool like cozy socks are cool. I sometimes float the ideas of my essays by my 14-year-old daughter, and for this one, and with no context, the other day I asked her, "So I'm not cool, right?" She regarded me quizzically, and I realized that the question could seem like a trick. I mean, really, what's the upside for her of answering it either way? She said, "Well, you're pretty strict about screen time, so you're not cool about that." I interjected, "No, I don't mean if I'm a cool mom. I mean just as a person." Again, a pregnant pause, and she looked at me with sincere curiosity and a little concern. "Well, what's cool?" she asked. "Give me an example of what you mean by cool." It took me a while to come up with someone who optically embodies the kind of 80s movie cool that I intended. And I also started wondering if my daughter might be a budding therapist with her relevant line of questioning. I finally thought of an effortlessly chic, seemingly nonchalant mom whom she knows, and she agreed, "Yeah, you're not cool like her." Then she added, "But I think you're cool." Only now, as I'm sharing this, is my heart kind of swelling with warmth. I'd assumed she'd support my thesis by easily concurring that I'm not cool. "But am I a dork?" I asked. "Like a lovable dork?" She laughed. "I mean," she kind of trailed off, "you're lovable, but not sure you're a dork. Sorry, Mom." So the whole direction I'd intended for this idea on embracing one's uncool took a sharp left turn. Now, ChatGPT tells me that a lovable dork refers to a person who may be socially awkward, quirky, or unconventional, but possesses an endearing charm that makes them likable or relatable. And although this interaction with my daughter may seem socially awkward to an outsider, it actually wasn't awkward for us. Rather, it was just a typical back and forth where I sought her discerning opinion. And upon further reflection, truth is, most of the time, I'm not socially awkward, nor am I particularly quirky. Sure, I have dorky moments, but categorically, dork is an inaccurate label for my whole self. And although the dork seed had been planted into my identity decades ago, I started to wonder maybe I'm not a dork. Maybe I've actually never been a dork. To my great surprise, I may even align more with ChatGPT's claim that cool individuals tend to embody confidence, authenticity, and calmness, among other things. Clearly, the definition of cool has evolved since the Molly Ringwald movie's characterization from my youth. But how funny that I've held onto that dork label that one childhood friend indirectly said about me. Until now, I've never even considered that over the course of their year as roommates, my friend's perspective on her roommate could have expanded. When she said that her roommate reminded her of me, I didn't ask, how so? I only absorbed the perceived jab, the echo of the dork part, and totally allowed the magnitude of the lovable part, where she was the ideal conversation companion, to fall wayside. Likewise, I hadn't seemed to consider that I'd much rather be associated with the safe connection back at home than the wild wing woman out at the frat house. Why did her label ever feel negative? How often our minds do that? Focus on the negative and disregard the positive, not to mention make assumptions and fail to ask clarifying questions. I'm exhausted just thinking about how many times I've done this and still do in my life. So that's my life learning nugget for all of us this week. Let's listen for and absorb the upsides, the good parts, the positives. Let's focus on the folks who consider us cool as is. Let's all take a page from my daughter's playbook and get curious about what our perceptions of cool even are. And let's embrace our whole dorky, cool selves. Let's grow. I'm Lindsay Hurdy. Learn more about me and my offerings on my Substack, lindsayhurdy.substack.com. Please connect with me there. I'm grateful that you're here. I'm sending love your way. Until next time. Be sure to like and subscribe and click that bell to get alerts for new posts. I'd be ever grateful.